What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I wanted to talk about the Democratic candidates for president. This is something completely new to me following Democrats in any way, shape, or form. First of all. Second of all, paying any attention to politics at all. I don't pay any attention to politics. So to dive this deep into something that I see happening is pretty interesting. So I wanted to talk about that. And if this is your first time here, what's up? I'm Sam, and if you're returning, it's good to freaking see you. Okay, now as I gave a little bit of context, I don't pay any attention to politics, let alone on the Democratic side, because I leaned more Republican in the past. And this person came on my radar through YouTube, I would say probably in the last couple weeks, named Andrew Yang. And for this, freedom dividend, I think is where it was on YouTube. So I think I watched a video or something, and then I saw more of his videos on YouTube. And I was like, well, this probably just saw more of them on YouTube because I clicked on one video. So then YouTube knows I watched that one video, so they just put more into the algorithm, or more Andrew Yang videos in my recommended videos on YouTube. So then I went over to Instagram, not necessarily in the same time, but just this has played out over the last couple weeks. And on Instagram and on my Explore page, I see the same stuff on Instagram. So I'm like, what is going on here? Like, who is this person? Because clearly he's doing it right. Like, he actually is getting people's attention because it's showing up on YouTube and showing up on Instagram. And these are the platforms where there's actually millions and millions and millions of eyeballs versus your town hall fucking meeting. You know what I mean? Yes, those are valuable, but at the same exact time, there's a new thing called the internet, and podcasts and YouTube shows and Instagram shows, Facebook shows. All these things are real, and they're tremendously powerful in the amount of attention that is on these things, on podcasts and YouTube shows and Facebook shows. And very, very effective. So seeing this, I started to dive into it, and I made a video on this last night. I wanted to know, I'm seeing this, but what's actually kind of happening, Because I see this, but I'm just in a fucking bubble, right? So I decided to look at some polling data from Real Clear Politics. And they, our website, it looks like they aggregate different surveys and polling from different companies. We got The Economist here, USA, probably the newspaper or whatever. I feel like I've heard that name before. Some other company, and Politico. They aggregate that data, and they have the number one person by a wide margin over the past 6 months as Joe Biden. So, and then the next person is Bernie Sanders. And then within the last 2 months, it's kind of gone between Sanders, a person called Harris, and Warren. These are the people that have kind of all congurred, come together. Sanders, that person, Harris, and Warren, they've all come together, but Joe Biden is fucking way up here according to this site that aggregates polling data, which is what we have used as a talking points basically at past elections since, I would say the late 90s, and people just pontificate about the scientific nature of these polling data and how they're structured, and this site puts them together even though they're all structured slightly differently. So I wanted to compare that to what I'm seeing, right? Because I didn't even know Biden was fucking running for president like literally no clue whatsoever. That's how much interest I have in politics, especially Democratic politics, because I never really leaned that way at all. So for something to come onto my radar when it's so out of my fucking, it's not even in the realm of like things that I ever pay attention to whatsoever. So, and having this come on my radar, I'm like, I wonder what exactly is going on here. So I decided to look at YouTube search, and I made a more detailed video on this. So if you go back on the channel, the video before this one, you will see that video, and it's much more in depth. It's about 22 minutes long, and I do a lot more commentary on this. However, just a quick recap: if you take, if you go to Google Trends, and you go on there, you can look up the search trends on YouTube and on Google, and so when you do that and you compare Andrew Yang, Tom Sawyer, who is a billionaire, which I just think Americans find billionaires very fascinating. So that's why I put him in there. Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders, right? So I put in those people who are at the top according to the political polls that other site aggregates. And that other site has Andrew Yang at the highest point of ninth in terms of like winning the election. They have him ranked at ninth, and that's the highest he's ever been. But throughout like the last several months, he wasn't even like on the top 10 at all. So when you look at the Google Trend site, you get to see that people are searching him out, and over the much more recent months here, he's had a spike so that he has actually had the most people searching for him on the internet. Andrew Yang. That's insane, and that does not show in the polling data. And then when you go over to YouTube and you look it up over the last 12 months, the period of time where Yang has been at the top area of interest in terms of candidates has been several months longer than in the overall internet, according to Google search, right? So that was kind of interesting. And then if you look at trends24.in, they just track Twitter and see what's trending on Twitter, which hashtags are trending. And today is 8/11, and one of the hashtags that has been trending all day today is that Elon has hashtag Elon for Yang. And there was a something that Andrew Yang tweeted about. He doesn't care like really what other people think, but he wants to have that dialogue, because at the same time he's completely open to changing if theirs is better. You know, like he just wants the best solution. Doesn't matter if it's coming from, you know, a nobody or like, you know, people who don't have credibility or whatever, or who are completely on the opposite side. And Elon tweeted, "I support that," or something like that, or "I support Yang." And it was kind of interesting in the sense that he said Yang instead of Andrew or something, because that would kind of like indicate that he's talking about the presidency, you know, which is just interesting, and that's been trending all day. Okay, so that's like the most recent. That's like the super most recent data we have. So then now I wanted to actually dive into their social. So in all of that gives you context to now what's like actually going on. So I'm diving into their social. So I pulled up Joe Biden's YouTube channel, and I pulled up Andrew Yang's YouTube channel. And something that I thought was kind of interesting about the YouTube channels is that when you go to the about sections for the two channels, there's a lot more details. Yeah, there's a lot more details. There's a landing page in the about me section on Andrew Yang's than there is on Joe Biden's. Like, there's a lot more areas to go to get information from the About Me section on Andrew Yang's YouTube page. I was just looking at that now, versus Joe Biden's. And I find that kind of interesting, but the first thing that stood out to me was that Andrew Yang only started his YouTube channel on December 6th of 2017. So 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, he started his YouTube channel. So it's pretty recent, right? And then I went over to Joe Biden's, and he started his YouTube channel on April 22nd, 2019. So it's like, holy fuck, like, what is going on? Because clearly he wasn't on YouTube at all whatsoever. And I'm just going to talk about the accounts here really quickly. Let's see here. So then you go over to Joe Biden and Instagram, and then you do the same thing and you go over to Andrew Yang's Instagram. And December, it's Joe Biden has 1.3 million followers on his page, and Andrew Yang has like 300,000. So just a time, like, think of like the population in China versus like the U.S. That's basically the difference. There's a massive difference in the amount of followers that each of those has. Joe Biden has tremendously more. However, there's 874 posts from Andrew Yang, because it, like, right, you over time you just build up posts, right? Because if you've had it for 4 or 5 years, 10 years, however long you've had it, you build up posts over time. Even if you're only posting, say, once every other day or something like that, or 4 times a week or something, like, that really adds up over time. So that makes sense. And then you go to Joe Biden's, and he has 88 posts on his, but he's got 1.3 million followers. So that seems a little strange, right? I wonder if somebody's like maybe buying. You think somebody would be buying likes, maybe, or comments? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that that's the case. It was just a thought I had, right? Because before having that thought, I was like, well, let me check the engagement on these pages, right? And so we're just going to go through some here, and the likes on a lot of on the top several things that Joe Biden has posted. There were things, and this is let's include the IGTV. So IGTV, it looks like it was viewed. Actually, no, they don't have hearts. Okay, basically the number of hearts on posts has ranged between, say, the low of like 12,500 maybe. It looks like, yeah, in the last like several posts, that was the lowest amount for Joe Biden. When you go over to Andrew Yang's Instagram page and you look through, he has, and remember, he has substantially less followers, right? Like a shitload less followers. And over about the same amount of time, so I went back, this is quite a bit, I went back several posts to maybe like 20 posts. And so like all of the last 20 posts, and you look at his, like the number of times people have clicked his, like double clicked his video or picture to like one of his photos that he posts on Instagram, right? And the lowest it looks like he's had was 8,700 likes on something that he posted. However, a lot of them are in the same neighborhood, actually in the same neighborhood, if not higher in a couple instances, but in the same neighborhood, maybe on the lower side, but in the same neighborhood. Like this one right here is 18.9, this is 13.7, this is 11, this is 10.6, this is 25, this is 19. Like there's a lot of posts here that, like the one that was posted most recently is 20,000.8. So like when you look at that, we're not going to start any conspiracies and say that like they were bought, right? Like we have no fucking idea. We don't know what's going on. But the we'll just assume that they're all real people, right? That's just we're just going to assume that is the case. However, if you do have 1.3 million and Andrew Yang does have 300,000, one of these has a much higher rate of engagement, which I think you can draw your own conclusions about how and why that's so important. Think about that for a second. So something that's at least 4 times the size, right? 4 times 300,000 is 1.2, right? And he's got 1.3. So something that's over 4 times the size to have almost the same level of engagement, but 1/4 the size. That's insane. Think about that for a second. Anyways, now we wanted to get back into their actual profile. Joe Biden reads almost like an intro to a magazine, or like a biography of somebody, or like, you know, the intro to a fucking book. It's got Joe Biden, Senator, Vice President, 2020 candidate for President of the United States, husband to his wife Biden, father and grandfather Joe Biden. Now, there's nothing wrong with having it read that way or sound like it's coming out of a book. Not at all. Not even slightly. There's nothing wrong with that by any stretch of the imagination. It just, in my mind, it's like less authentically human, I guess you could say. And you go through and you'll see Andrew Yang. I'm running for president in 2020. D, meaning Democrat. And he's like, fighting for, and he's got a dollar sign. I think that's a dollar sign. Freedom dividend, $1,000 per month for all. And he's got like a little medical symbol, Medicare for all. And then like a building of some sort, and then it says human capitalism. So I don't know. To me, that is a nicer, very, very objective, right? Or subjective, because like it's my complete fucking opinion on that. Just auditing the profiles of these individuals. Okay, so now let's go back into check their stats on Social Blade. So when we go to pull up Andrew Yang's Instagram, he created it in 2013. But what's really important that we're going to look at is the total amount of followers over the past 30 days. And from Andrew Yang, this is from his Twitter. Yeah, this is actually from his Twitter. Okay, so this is from Joe Biden's Twitter and Andrew Yang's Twitter. Joe Biden's like crushing it. He had 50,000 on Twitter, 50,000 new followers in the last 30 days. That's freaking awesome. He also looks like he just started tweeting. The line of tweets for the past several years was kind of like this in terms of the tweets per month from Joe Biden. It was basically just a fucking flat line. And then in April 2019, it takes off like this. So clearly somebody's fucking running it for him or something. But he's crushing it. And he gained 50,000 50,000 on Twitter, right? That's amazing. So let's come over to Andrew Yang. And he and clearly you can tell that like somebody kicked it into gear with Joe Biden's, because when you look at the graph of tweets from Andrew Yang per month, and his is back about two years or so, a little bit over 2 years with the data. It's like much more like human in the way that it looks, because Joe Biden's his curve is just like nothing, and then like in April of 2019, coincidentally, when he also started his YouTube channel, so there was a effort at that point put in place to create an awareness online. They're like, this shit online, I think it's something we should figure out, right? Well, let's go. Should we do it? No, let's go hire somebody. So hiring somebody more than likely just to put all this shit in place. Anyways, so Andrew Yang's number of tweets per month have just been kind of like going up and down a little bit, but mainly just trending up and to the right. And it looks like he's averaging about 500 per month on average. Now, if you look at Andrew Yang's number of followers that he's